Good evening, Broncos country. This is the Orange and Blue View with Ron White and myself, Thomas Hall. And we are going to be talking about the Courtland Sutton happenings. So, Ron, while I'm bringing in these other streams, will you jump in and kind of tell everybody what happened yesterday, and today with the Courtland Sutton?
Yeah, so there are rumors out there, and the Broncos brass probably knows and doing some reading that um, Courtland Sutton was on the trade block, and that the Broncos were kind of looking at maybe possibly trading him, listening to some offers. And Courtland Sutton did post a tweet saying that he kind of wants to. I don't have the exact words in front of me, but I know he kind of wants to be in a place where he's, you know, honored and respected and such. And we want to see maybe how the rumors of the trade happening affected that and the implications behind that tweet. And we know with Courtland Sutton, when he came out, you know out of SMU, he was great, raw talent. And then I know that second year he took that leap and that next step. But as we saw last year, Thomas, it was not good. We didn't really see much of Courtland Sutton. We didn't see much of the 50-50, the jump balls, more so 80-20, I should say, jump balls. And it's maybe time for the Broncos to move on. Now, I'm more on the bandwagon of having him stay just because Russell Wilson does need all the weapons at his disposal to make this offense click. But at the same time, I can see why the Denver Broncos are at least listening to and maybe trying to field some of those trade offers.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, I loved Courtland Sutton as a rookie. I loved him in his second year. He looked like he was ready to take off. I loved how he was aggressive, going after the ball. He was winning 50-50 balls. I really projected him to be kind of a superstar in the Broncos offense. But I mean, let's face it, last season he wasn't as good. His projection after that injury, he kind of came off. And I can understand why the Broncos maybe are looking at offloading him in a trade if they get something good. But at the same time, the offense was a mess last year anyway. Nobody really played well. So, I mean, I can understand his down year too a little bit. So to have these rumors floating around, and Courtland Sutton, that he started it all. He really came out and tweeted out that he wanted to be where he was wanted and respected and needed. And that's kind of brought this firestorm of rumors now about him being shopped. And then we have, back and forth rumors of he is being shopped, he's not being shopped. We don't really know. Well, I mean, let's be realistic, I guess. What could he get in return? What is the return value for Sutton? And then from there, we can start talking about whether it's worth it. But before you answer that, Ron, I just want to grab Nathan coming in here with a super chat. We really appreciate it, Nathan. Thank you so much for coming in and supporting the show. We are happy that you did that. So thank you very much. And if you have any questions, throw them in the chat, live chat. We will take our shot at answering them. So thank you, Nathan. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Nathan, for your generosity. It's much appreciated. As far as the value in return, if we were to offload Sutton, but he was a second round pick, so I can maybe see third or fourth, maybe. I can even see like a fourth round pick for him. It's, we have to look at, the NFL is a production based business. And again, we saw the great flashes at the beginning of his career, but there was a big drop off, Thomas. And I don't see how any NFL team, if they're wanting to, take on Courtland Sutton and, the contract, I don't see anything more than that third or fourth round pick. And I would more so leaning toward a fourth round pick for him for sure. But that's probably the best the Broncos can garner out of that trade.
Yeah, I mean, if you're getting a fourth rounder for him, I don't think it's a good idea to trade him, personally, because the fourth round value, I'll tell you, I built this calculator, right? Probability calculator. I've told you about that. It's right here. I put it on Tableau Public if anyone wants to see it. You can go there. You can put in rounds. You can see what the probability is given an impact player or a primary starter, right? Someone who's started at least 50% of the games. And I plug it in, and the probability of getting, Courtland Sutton's a starter. He is a starter in this league, and he's been pretty darn solid. He was actually on his way to be an impact player pretty much. And to replace him with a fourth rounder or get a primary starter in return in the fourth round, it probably is 0.157. That's pretty low.
Yeah.
You know what you have in Courtland Sutton. That's where I'm coming from. Like, you know the quantity of Courtland Sutton. And now if you're going to get a draft choice in return in the fourth round, you don't know what you're going to get. You know, it's a low probability of getting somebody that's going to contribute the way he does. Now, if you're going to get another player in return, that's different. Another player in return, you know what you're getting in return. But just to get a draft choice for a draft choice, it's like let's make a deal where, what's behind door number 2? Let's go see what it is. Sometimes it's nothing. That's the problem with the draft. So for me to trade him for a fourth round is, I'm not too keen on it.
Yeah, I'm not either. We have to give Sean Payton, we have to give Russell Wilson all the weapons for this offense. And we don't know what this offense looks like at full strength. So we're having Tim Patrick come back next year. Greg Dulcich will take that leap. At least we hope he will. And I know they said that Javonte will be ready or in the lineup, which I still have my doubts and reservations on that. But, I think with the return of some of these key players and Tim Patrick and Courtland Sutton kind of building that relationship, I think it'll definitely be a blessing in disguise for this different offense. So, again, I don't want Sutton to be traded. He was the second round draft choice for the Broncos, hometown favorite. After Emmanuel Sanders left, he took that torch. And again, we do see the glimpses. We know what he can provide. And to your point, Thomas, fourth round pick, or hell, even if we were to get another receiver from free agency, we just don't know what that looks like. Their talents, how that's going to fit in this offense, but we know what we have in Courtland Sutton coming in.
Absolutely. And before I jump into talking more about that, I'm just going to grab Keith Brugman here coming in from Facebook. We appreciate you coming in here. We all see you on the show, so thank you for doing that. And he comes in with a comment. He says, is Courtland a top round pick like Hollywood Brown or Christian Kirk? What makes him a third, fourth, fifth, or sixth? And that's really what we're talking about. And thank you, Keith. And I'll just say nobody's here with us, so we're trying to figure out, make sure we're grabbing the right comments here and there while talking. So bear with us as we do this. But yeah, we don't know what the draft capital or what in return that Courtland Sutton is going to get or provide. And like you said, if it's a third round, even to a sixth round, those aren't great selections. And I know the Broncos are looking for more draft picks because they only have 6, but at the same time, is it worth it for a known quantity like Sutton? And I don't think his contract is prohibitive. I mean, they signed these deals with his contract a while ago, and everybody says, oh man, they got a great deal on his contract. Everybody's been saying that. So it's not prohibitive. And if you cut him, you still have some dead cap. I mean, if you trade him, you're going to have some dead cap. So I don't really see the need of shopping him around. Why get rid of all your great players or good players or starters just at a chance of getting somebody else? I mean, if he was 30, then yes, I get it. But he's 27. He's still got his prime left. And you have people returning from injuries. You got Patrick returning from injuries. You don't know if he's going to be fully healed and back to his old self. KJ Hamler was, injured quite a bit last season. So you've got question marks in your wide receiver core. So trading him is not making much sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you bring up a good point, Thomas. And then again, it's both coming back from injury, and we don't know how Tim Patrick's going to bounce back from that injury, right? We hope, signs point to him coming back and being a blessing for this offense, but we still have these injured players, which we don't know. So at the receiver position, you have to be strong there. We have to stay strong. And granted, I know it was a down year last year for Sutton, but with the uncertainty of Tim Patrick, and then we don't know what's going to happen with KJ Hamler. We have Jeudy coming up as our star in a sense. So we just need to make sure that that cupboard is as full as it can be, with the uncertainty and the players coming back from injury. We just don't know how they're going to, play, things like that, how they're going to bounce back. So.
Absolutely. And thank you, Lawrence Rivera, for coming in. Facebook, appreciate you being here. We've got Dominic Martin coming in, Orange and Blue for life. I'm glad I caught this podcast. If Jay Williams can't play this season, I guess it's a question. What if I think Javonte Williams can't play this season? So Dominic, thank you for coming with that question. It's a very good question. I've been talking about it, just like we're talking about Patrick returning from an injury, similar injury that Courtland Sutton had. He has a little bit more time to recover to kind of come in a little bit better. But Courtland Sutton had a down year after his injury, was trying to recover. Now we have, Javonte Williams. What if he can't play this season? I've been saying since the beginning that he may never be his old self again. And that's unfortunate. I love Javonte Williams. He had a major knee injury. It wasn't an ACL tear. And I posted on Twitter. I wish I could remember the exact numbers. They did a study on the differences between a single like ACL tear and multiple ligaments like he had. And the chances of him returning to form is like 15%. It's very low. It is hard to return. And I hope he's an outlier. I hope he bucks the system because, man, he's fun to watch. I love his angry ruds. I love watching Quinn Miners like coming in behind, trying to get more, help him get more yards. It's amazing. But the Broncos have to do something this season in the running back group because Javonte Williams is probably not going to be healthy to start the year. And it's possible that he may not be as effective as he was prior to his injury.
Thank you, Dominic, again, for your comment. And it's a need. It's a concern. If Javonte Williams can't come back in, again, the Broncos are more high on him coming back, returning to form than most of us are. And so I still have my reservations. And of course, we cut Chase Edmonds. So now we have to do something at running back. Obviously, with Latavius Murray, it would be great to bring him back. There's some familiarity there with Sean Payton. And we'll have to see if there are any other mid-tier free agents out there. And of course, looking in the draft. But we have to solidify the running back group just because we don't know how Javonte is going to come back. And even when he does come back, what he's going to look like in this offense. So good point.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting to see how they fill out this roster. Clayton Huron, thank you for coming in from Facebook. Appreciate it. We're trying to grab all these comments. We don't have Scott here. We don't have Chad here in the background helping us out. So if we miss some, I apologize again. But Clayton, thank you for being here and supporting us. We really appreciate that support. Clayton says, evening Broncos country, smash that like button. So definitely do that. Share it. Share it with your friends, family. We'll get some more people in here listening. It's great. Get some more discussion going on. And he says, once we establish our running game again, man, our offense is going to be fire. Thoughts? Well, my thought on it is what we were just kind of talking about, the fact that who is going to be the running back. I mean, I think if the Broncos can address the offensive line, you can get away with some of these other running backs, until Javonte Williams gets healed. I love the way Latavius Murray came on at the end of the year, kind of thrown in, was one of the best players on the offense really for that last half of the season. But, he's getting older, so they're going to have to pay him money to bring him back. So the running game is a pretty bare cupboard right now. I think Peyton is going to figure it out. Sean Payton's always had good offenses. They averaged, they got 500 more, or more points more times than they had 300 or less. So they're going to score points. He's going to figure it out. You're going to address the offensive line. You got to bring in some running backs. Chase Edmonds is gone, like you said, Ron. So I think, establishing that running game is going to be great, but there's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of question marks at wide receiver right now. There's a lot of question marks at offensive line, and there's a lot of question marks at running back. And then there's the big question of Russell Wilson. Will he return to form? So, I mean, what are your thoughts? You think that the offense is going to be considerably better even with these question marks?
Yes, because the coaching's better. And again, thank you, Clayton, for your chat. Much appreciated. The coaching's better. And coaching is half, maybe more than half of the battle, Thomas, right? So now that the coaching is established, Sean Payton can figure out offensive line, how to create these lanes with the scheme, get our running game going, and expect there to be an emphasis on the running game. Again, you're right to a degree where running back is a need, but I think with Sean Payton's scheme, we'll be able to get mid-tier running backs coming in and making sure that this offense clicks. But I definitely do see a better offense with Sean Payton. Offensive line will definitely be fixed, as we know that's one of my biggest things, my biggest complaints for the past few years. And now that we have coaching in place, that should get addressed. Once offensive line is addressed, you'll see those holes start to open up, point of attack, creating these running lanes, and then we should see a more effective, productive Russell Wilson in this offense. So I'm expecting 20 plus points, trying to see if we can hang in there with the Chiefs and some of these other high powered offenses. I do expect that this coming season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's got to be better than it was last year.
Definitely.
I mean, even when Hackett got fired and an interim coach came in, it was better offense. So it's got to be improved. Yeah. And Dom, appreciate you coming in from Facebook. Thank you so much. Dom says, "What's up, Thomas, Ron, and Broncos country? I'm glad we got rid of 3 players to build up cap space. My question is, what other players do you boys believe we'll get rid of for more cap space?" That's a great question, because there are some rumors about other people going to be, jettisoned from the team to save some cap space, but I really don't. I think, maybe a restructure or two might help. I don't, the one name that keeps coming up is Mike Purcell, but if you don't re-sign Draymond Jones, which it looks like you're not going to, and you let go of Mike Purcell to get cap space, which isn't very much. It's only like 3 to 4 million. It's not very much. You're going to have your offensive line, starting offensive line right now, would then, if you got rid of him, would look like DJ Jones and 2 second-year guys in Henningsen and Uzurike. That's a pretty thin defensive line. So I don't know if you're going to get rid of Mike Purcell. I actually wouldn't really free up anybody. I would keep most of the people that they're talking about, just because, you've got holes to fill, and you keep getting rid of players, you're going to get more holes to fill. And they've got 37 million in cap space. That's pretty good. Just do a couple restructures and you have quite a bit more.
Yeah, I agree mostly with the comment there, Thomas. A couple restructures should do the trick. A few players, again, I mean, this tight end room can definitely be looked at. Now with the surgence of Greg Dulcich, I mean, do you need Eric Thomason, Alberts, right? Are they really needed? And then also Kareem Jackson, right? Well, what we're going to do with Kareem Jackson, and we know he's lost a step or 2 or 3, and he's getting long in the tooth. So I know Caden Stearns is also coming back from injury. May look at the draft, right, for another safety as well. But I know those are 2 that you can definitely move on from. That can definitely clear up some cap space as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not going to get any money for Kareem Jackson's an unrestricted free agent right now. So even if you don't re-sign him, you're going to save the money that you want to re-sign him with, but you're not going to get any more cap space because he's an unrestricted. He signed a 1-year deal and came back, so he's done. But yeah, I mean, most of the areas have kind of been hit. The big ones like Edmonds, Darby, Glasgow, those are the ones that everybody was expecting. I was saying that a long time ago. It was on its way. So yeah, I don't know if there's much more that you can really get rid of other than Purcell that will save you much more dollars, right? That will be, but in my opinion, I know that Mike Purcell is getting older and his contract is maybe more than what he has been producing. I think he's still a good run stopper. I think he adds a little bit of, oomph to that defensive line. But if you get rid of him, you're going to have to bring somebody else in. So I think just a couple restructures possibly is going to be good.
Yep. And then we got David coming in here. Thank you, David, for your comment. Much appreciated. He asked, if all of our receivers are healthy, it will be a nightmare for defenses if all five receivers are on the field for a few plays. And it's a comment, not a question. Thank you, David, again. And that's our point, David, of why would you want to trade Courtland Sutton? Because now you're down a weapon for Russell Wilson, and defenses can now start to focus on Jeudy, right? Defenses can now start to shift coverage to Tim Patrick. And of course, we know how, Tim Patrick, they're dynamic, Tim Patrick and Jeudy, but when defenses start to focus on these players, it's, but what do you do? And then now we have Courtland Sutton with Greg Dulcich. How do you defend? Where do you defend? Like, where do you even start? So just having all those options and skill players at the receiver position will definitely be great for this offense. And it'll definitely help Russell Wilson out because, I know he wants to keep all the receivers there just as well. So,
yeah. And from my perspective, I mean, unless Sean Payton doesn't like Sutton for some reason, it doesn't make any sense to get rid of him. But I don't see how. I mean, I remember, he had Marquez Colston, with him for, several years. And he was a late round pick that he turned into a fantastic receiver. And he's a big guy like Sutton, 6'4", 220, 225. He seems like he would play that role really well. And unless Peyton just doesn't want two of those guys, he thinks Patrick's going to be better, but he's a question mark again. I still don't see it. Why get rid of a strength on the team when there's a lot of question marks, coming in? And I say it's a strength because under Sean Payton, it will be a strength. The wide receivers will play better. They'll have a better system that will get them into positions to succeed. And that's where I'm coming from. I don't know why he'd be shopping unless they're just hoping that somebody says, you know what, we'll give you a second for him. I don't see that though. I mean, I don't see it.
And I know there have been rumors, talk about Michael Thomas coming, and I'm like, why? I mean, I obviously I know there's a familiarity with Sean Payton, but why? I mean, we have, I think, Courtland Sutton, who is somewhat similar. They're very similar, Courtland Sutton and Michael Thomas. I just don't see the need for Michael Thomas coming when you do have somewhat very similar. And, outside the injury, Courtland Sutton's a little bit more reliable. Of course, we didn't see the sure hands as we wanted to last year, a little bit of a drop off, but we know with those 70-30, 80-20 balls, Courtland Sutton does come down with those. So,
well, Michael Thomas was a all-pro talent. Don't get me wrong, but he's been injured. He barely played. Exactly. So, I mean, I don't see why they would spend the money to bring in somebody that's, going to add more injury risk to this team. So, Quentin Carson, thank you for coming in from Facebook, saying you guys are fantastic. Mile High Huddle for life. Go Broncos. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. And we got Colton coming in. Colton Ensley saying love the show and you guys together. Buckham. Yeah, Buckham. Thank you. Don't forget. Yeah, Buckham. We have Buckham shirts at the Mile High Huddle store. So don't forget to go get that. We got other merchandise there. So yeah, jump on those shirts and support the Mile High Huddle crew. So thank you very much for coming in with those compliments. We are having a lot of fun on the show. I'll tell you that. And it's going to be even more fun once we really start getting into the season and things like that. So appreciate it. Gerald Garcia coming in from Facebook. Appreciate it. Says, do you think they will keep Hamler? So what do you think, Ron? You think they're going to keep Hamler around?
Yeah, I thank you, Gerald, for your comment. Much appreciated. I've thought about this one, Thomas. I think there's a difference between my head and my heart here. I'm a big KJ Hamler fan. What he had to endure, it definitely does hit home to a degree. I don't think they will keep him though. I want them to keep him. I just don't see it because it goes back to the injury and the availability. We know what he can bring. Like, he's very dynamic, speedy, quick receiver, and in Sean Payton's offense, he would just be amazing. But will he be available in this offense? And that's the question that has surrounded him. And I don't see them keeping him around just because of the injury history that he's had. Um, but I could be wrong. But I just don't see it, with the other playmakers. And then they may get somebody else in free agency coming up. So it just really kind of depends on that. But definitely, if they kind of have another receiver in free agency, or even if they draft somebody, I can definitely maybe see Hamler being cut.
Yeah. Well, the Broncos need somebody to take the top off the defense, and Hamler's supposed to be that guy, but he just isn't reliable. I don't know if they're going to get rid of him, but like you said, if they do bring somebody else in that's a speedster that can take that role, then you may see him gone. I don't see it at this moment in time. Like I said, everybody was underused in that offense or used incorrectly. I think Hamler, if he can stay healthy, he's going to have an impact. But that's the big question. And then you start to think, well, who are you going to bring in to replace him? Everybody's talking about Brandon Cooks, maybe, bringing him in. I don't know. He's 30, going to be 30, I think. I don't know if that's, the reliable speedster that you want to bring in, but they're from what I can tell, from what I'm seeing, and I don't have any sources, so don't quote me on this. But the way they're shopping Sutton and the history with Hamler, they're going to grab somebody in the wide receiver area in the draft. They have to. They've got to bring somebody in, and I think they're going to bring in, one of those Hamler-like players who's really fast, but hopefully can maintain the impact of the NFL without losing a lot of time, in uniform and on game day.
Yep.
Phil McLaughlin coming in. Good to see you here, Phil. We love having you on the show and the support that you give us. So thank you very much. Phil says, good evening, Thomas and Ron. Can we get rid of our punter and kicker and returner? That's a good question, and I have my thoughts on that for sure. Peyton will definitely get a running back in the draft or free agency, in my opinion. Mile High Huddle for life and Buckham.
Thank you, Phil. I'll take the last part with the running back in the draft, and then if you want to share your thoughts on the punter and kicking and returner. So yeah, I definitely agree there, Phil. That we will look at running back in the draft. Free agent running back options that are out there. Again, I can pull up a few options, but again, there are a few out there that are somewhat intriguing. But if they're willing to not, as far as the compensation, willing to deal and negotiate, maybe they pick up a free agent running back. And then I'm also thinking though that it's going to be mostly in the draft that the Broncos do look at the running back position, because again, as we alluded to earlier, they need to solidify this running back group. It leaves a lot to be desired, and this offense, with the emphasis that Peyton's going to put on this running game, we need the 1, 2, 3, 4 punch to make this thing click. So I definitely agree there, Phil, that will happen.
Yeah, I think they got to go after somebody in the draft for running back. They have to. They just don't have enough bodies there right now. And I think they should go after Alexander Madison. I think that's a good choice. He's very, doesn't have much tread on his tires. Still 24 years old. He's not a superstar or anything, but he's a capable runner, and he's a pretty decent pass catcher out of the backfield as well. So I think they could bring someone like that in to, give him a couple of years on his contract, let him, see what he does for the next couple of years, and maybe give him a 3-year contract. He's young. I know that I keep talking about don't get free agent running backs, because by the time they get that first contract, they're already on their downside. But he's not. He's 24. Their peak is 25, and then they start to decline. So he you get 25, 26, 27. You get a few good years out of him. So I like that. I do like that. They're going to have to bring somebody in. As far as special teams go, they're probably going to bring in a punter to push Waitman, or compete with Waitman, I should say. Waitman wasn't. He was very inconsistent. It seemed like the second half was better than the first half of games for him. So I think they're definitely going to bring somebody in, at least to compete with him. McManus got a big price tag, and he wasn't as consistently good as he'd been in the past last year. So I think that's a very possibility that McManus might be a cap casualty, or they'll bring some competition in, and you might see the same thing in training camp. What happened with Martin and Waitman? Martin and Waitman were pretty even, and Waitman had a lower price tag. Now, as far as returner goes, I'm actually a Montreal Washington fan. Okay. I know he didn't play very well, but the special teams they used him wrong. They it was I didn't care for how Stooks went about business last year when it came to special teams. I think you saw some flashes from Montreal Washington, but as soon as he started to make those fumbles, they should have replaced him. But they kept him out there until it became, an epidemic, so to speak. And he threw into the fire as a rookie, which is always tough. And then he started to struggle, and they just kept throwing him out there, kept putting him out there, and he kind of got his confidence shaken a little bit. I think he's going to bounce back. I see the reasons why they drafted him way too early. I think that was a mistake to draft him way too early, and I think that's why they just said, "Well, we're going to use you because we want to prove that we made the right decision." But he's a dynamic player. He can really move in the open field, and I think they're going to continue to try and give him some gadget plays on offense. And you remember, he's a rookie. You got to give rookies a little bit of time to develop. I think he will, and if he doesn't, he was a fifth rounder. I know people are all upset because he was overdrafted, but in the end, he's a fifth rounder. There's a lot of fifth rounders that you move on from, but I do like Montreal Washington. I think they're going to give him another chance, and I think he'll be, better than expected.
And to piggyback off, I agree with mostly everything you said there, Thomas. For the kicker, definitely with McManus, it's he's not that sure guy anymore, and that's concerning. Of course, anything maybe 40, maybe closer to 50 yards out, we can maybe depend on him. But anything after that, it's a crapshoot. And bringing someone in at least to compete, I can see the Broncos doing. And with your returner, I like Montreal Washington as well. I think with Peyton being able to use him, to your point, these when it's in motion and a lot of these gadget trick plays, I think Montreal Washington can come in and be the player for that, because we saw what he can do in space. He's very, very dynamic. But with better coaching, I think he'll be used correctly, and we'll start to see the best out of him. So yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I do. I mean, like I said, is a rookie. Everybody has rookie mistakes.
Yeah.
And one of those fumbles, I thought, and I think someone made the comment, and I can't remember the game, he got kind of bumped into. I wish he wouldn't have flopped a little bit. That kind of concerned me. I was like, God, don't flop. Just try and grab the ball. He was going for the penalty flag, and they didn't throw it. And that's what I'll tell you, the thing that really bothers me, whether it's a receiver or whatever, if they kind of give up on the play and hope for the penalty flag, that is a bit of a red flag for me. It's like play through the whistle and then hope for the flag after. Go for the ball. Don't, it was like a lot of times where, we saw defenders just stand around for the Broncos watching a fumble bounce around. They think it's an incomplete pass, so they don't jump on it. That is the problem with coaching. And I don't think that's going to happen this year. I think Peyton's going to be a little bit more tough love. He's going to teach them, if there's a ball on the ground, you go for it. I don't care if you think it's an incompletion or not, or you think that you're going to get a flag, you go for it, because you never know what's going to happen. And we saw it last year. We saw that the Broncos standing around thinking it was an incomplete pass ended up being a fumble. And so there was that part that I didn't really care for with Washington, but I can't blame him too much. He's learning.
Yep, for sure. And we got Justin coming in here. Thank you, Justin. We appreciate it. He says, Tim Patrick is a beast. I have faith he will return to full form. Thank you, Justin, once again. And I do as well. I have faith. I have hope that he will return to that form that we know him to be, of going up and making those contested catches, being dynamic in open space. And we'll see kind of how, if they keep Sutton, what happens as far as Russell Wilson's favorite target, if you will. And I can definitely see Tim Patrick, definitely if he comes back in that form, he kind of taking that torch as Russell Wilson's favorite target outside of Jerry Jeudy, obviously, because now we know that Jerry Jeudy be number one. So Patrick coming in with coming back to full strength, I think will definitely help. And we'll see what happens. But I agree. Let's hope for the best for Tim Patrick in this offense for sure.
Yeah, and Tim Patrick is a hard worker.
Yeah.
So I have any question that he's going to work hard to come back to full form as best he can. So much has been done with just ACL tears that, hopefully he'll come back and be back to form. I think it will take a little while for him to be the Patrick of old, but I think losing Patrick, and I'm the first one to eat crow about Tim Patrick, because early on I was like, oh, you can cut Tim Patrick, it's no big deal. I was way wrong. Like, the guy's plays hard, a reliable target, and I think that hurt the offense early on. I mean, regardless of the mess that was created by Nathaniel Hackett, losing Tim Patrick was a big deal because I think Russell Wilson trusted him. I think he was poised for a big year with Russell Wilson passing to him. And I think that was a big loss. And I think he's a solid leader in that, people look up to him. He's a hard worker. He came up from, it wasn't a high round draft choice or anything like that. And he turned out to be a really good player. So, he's kind of that Rod Smith mold, not as good as Rod Smith was, but, worked hard, made it, and people look up to that. So I think you're right. I think, Justin, I think you're right. Thank you for the comment. I think he's going to be, by mid-season, he's going to be looking pretty solid again.
Yep. And going to...
Whoops. Sorry, Ron, you had a comment up there. I missed it.
Yeah. Got Deuce here coming in here. Thank you, Deuce. Deuce says that Jeudy will draw so much attention next season, Sutton and Patrick will eat off Jeudy's presence. And you're absolutely correct, Deuce. It's having those other guys there, because once teams start to, well, they already know now that Jeudy's essentially probably going to be the number one. With Jeudy there, teams focusing on Jeudy, then you'll start to see the role of Courtland Sutton, the role of Tim Patrick. They start to be more of a playmaker in this offense, and expect them to get, substantial yards. We'll see a few touchdowns, obviously, from the both of them. It's going to be dependent on Patrick, obviously, him coming from injury, full form, full strength, when that's going to happen. But we definitely, with all these playmakers on this offense coming, we'll definitely start to see that with Jeudy drawing a lot of attention. So I definitely agree there, Deuce. Great comment.
Yeah, and I think Jeudy is going to be the number one guy next year, while Patrick works back into form. And I think, obviously, one doing well, drawing the attention is going to get Courtland Sutton open, Patrick open a little bit better. I think it's a good situation to have multiple wide receivers who you can count on. I know that Courtland Sutton had a little bit of a down year. He wasn't that beast in the 50-50 balls, but you put Jerry Jeudy as number one target. You create contested catches for Sutton and Patrick, and you're going to have a formidable wide receiver crew. The only thing left is to have that, speedster. I mean, Jeudy's fast, don't get me wrong. But it'd be nice to have a compliment to him, someone that's a real deep threat that the defenses respect. And I think they do with Jeudy. And I think that's why they moved him to that X receiver, out of necessity, but they should have done it earlier, right? They should have put him, just because Sutton and Patrick are big and can get off the line, off the press easier, doesn't mean that that's the right way to use them. Jeudy can get off the line as under that press from the cornerback, because he's so quick and we saw it. So put him out there, let him create for the other folks. You brought him in as a number one draft choice. He needs to start, making those plays as a number one draft choice. And that's, like you said, it's going to open up Sutton. It's going to open up Patrick. Hopefully they'll find another, speedster that they can open up. And then we were talking about Montreal, Washington. You get to him coming out of the backfield with some gadget play, catching something in space and making something happen. You can have a pretty formidable wide receiver crew. But once you start getting rid of them, then you've got to make decisions. Who are you going to bring in order to replace that particular production? And Sutton didn't have bad production. He had 800 yards, I think, last year, made some catches. It wasn't terrible. He didn't score a lot of touchdowns, but Russell Wilson wasn't passing a lot of touchdowns. So, it's down in his touchdowns. But yeah, I think you're right. I think thanks, Deuce. Appreciate you for coming in here and saying that. It's great.
Yeah, definitely. And then also with Jeudy, he's great with, you said, off press, but just the route running capabilities and how that opens up as well. Being able to, um, make men miss the top of the break. I think that's a skill like no other. So with Judy's skill set um, being a focus for a lot of these defenses, we will definitely see Tim Patrick, Sutton, Greg Dulcich, right, eat a little bit off in this offense. So
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna grab first say hi to Malcolm
hey,
Brown
Malcolm.
coming in from Homer, Alaska. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. I hope the weather's changing up there. Yeah, I don't know. I've never been to Alaska. It's a place I really want to
Yeah,
go,
me too.
and someday I'm gonna get there. So hopefully we're gonna grab a comment from Phil McLaughlin. Man, we appreciate you always coming in here, Phil, with support coming in from Facebook. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to answer this because I have not been doing a lot of film search, and I don't know if you have either, but I wanted to bring it up here anyway, and because we should definitely take a crack at answering this at some point. And he says, what do you guys think about Joshua Ezeudu and Martin Winfrey? I saw a mock where they were the 67th and 68th pick. Now, I don't know. Do you recognize any of these names?
Yeah, I'm familiar with Josh because he does play for the Tar Heels, North Carolina, and um, I know that's the school I went to, so I've been with him, and him coming in, I think the guard coming would definitely be a good choice. I'm not sure if he's right or left guard, but yeah, we definitely need to look at the offensive line for sure, Phil. I'm not too familiar with the Martin Winfrey, so that might be something. Maybe the building the Broncos guys or someone maybe can take a look at. We could definitely do some research on Martin Winfrey as well as we move forward. But yeah, Phil, anything to address this offensive line would be a win-win for everybody, and it needs to be a focus for sure. So I'll be okay with Joshua coming in. If of course it'll be a later draft pick around the 67, 68. So yeah, definitely good question.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, getting an offensive lineman in the third round, the interior offensive lineman, I'm talking about tackles, but you get a guard or a center. They usually pan out as a pretty solid starter for the most part. You can find them in the third round. So when you look at the analytics of it all, you grabbing that interior offensive line, they're not usually these superstars, but they're oftentimes a solid contributor on the offensive line. And the Broncos need that. They need somebody that can come in because they're going to change out three of these offensive linemen probably. So they're going to be looking for a guard. They're going to be looking for a center. And if he can fill in or at least, be a good rotational piece until he develops,
Mhm.
then I'm all for it. I think they're going to address the offensive line right away. And the good news, and if you want to go look at Mile High Huddle, I put out an article recently about Sean Payton's drafting prowess. Him and Mickey Loomis had a great run, one of the best drafting teams in the NFL from 2009 to 2019. And they were really good at finding offensive linemen, and they found several good ones in the later rounds. I mean, Terran Armstead was a third rounder. They had Jari Evans, who I think is a Hall of Famer. I think he's going to end up in the Hall of Fame. They found him in the fourth round. The Broncos' current offensive line coach, Zach Strief, was a seventh rounder, played a long time with New Orleans. Carl Nix. I mean, they found a lot of these later round guys to fill in and play really well. And some of them, like Jari Evans' case, is probably going to be a Hall of Famer. So I'm looking forward to what Sean Payton and George Payton can do similarly along the offensive line, because we have been waiting. The Broncos fans have been waiting for an offensive line that is dominant, and that, anybody that watched them in the 90s saw a dominant offensive line, one of the greatest offensive lines in history. Man, if we get anything close to that on the field to watch, it will be something. So, yeah, I don't know. I would defer to other people about specific, our draft gurus about specific people. But I'd say Luke Patterson, he might have seen him live at either the Senior Bowl or Shrine Bowl. I don't know. So give him a shout. Definitely help out.
Definitely. Definitely. Thanks, Phil.
Yeah. So let's take a look. And I'm sorry, still trying to keep up on these on the comments. I'll tell you, man, Ron, it is not easy trying to do the comments, talk, figure out how to do this all at once. It's great to have Scott here helping us out, man. It definitely isn't easy. So I don't know about you, but I find it hard to kind of bounce back and forth. So let me just check and see if any more comments came in. So.
Yeah, I'm looking here.
But yeah, so anyway, I guess we can start wrapping this show up. We're almost to an hour, so we can start to wind it down. But we got Justin coming in here with another comment, and he says we're not getting blown out of most games last season. The offense just could not score, and that's true, Ron. What do you think about this, and what do you think that means for the Broncos this season?
And you're absolutely right, Justin. And again, thank you for the comment. And that's been. That's been the issue ever since Peyton Manning left. We're not getting blown out at all with the games because we've had good enough defenses to keep the game close. It's offensively we just couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't score points, and now with Sean Payton at the helm, expect to see a lot of offense. Expect to see running backs go for all these yards. Expect for receivers to eat. And we also expect for Russell Wilson to return to the Russell Wilson that we know. At least that's the expectation. So with the coaching coming in and Sean Payton filling out the staff, bringing in these veteran coaches, we can definitely see how this offense will take shape. So we will definitely see a more fun, a more exciting offense, one that can go toe to toe with the Chiefs. And we saw, I believe it was the last Chiefs matchup last year was, of course, we had Nathaniel Packett out of the picture, but we did see a more competitive game on the offensive side. So expect the same here this year as well.
Yeah, and that's going to be the difference too. Last year, the scores were tight because teams didn't take a lot of risks because the Broncos weren't scoring points, and they had a great defense. I mean, early on, the defense was solid. So, and if you, I think, as about mid-season, Carl Mecklenburg, the great Carl Mecklenburg, who was awesome. I had him on the Legend Mile High show. He's a brilliant, and generous, wonderful person to come on the show and talk about it. But he said something about that very thing. Like, you can't judge how Broncos would have won based on the defensive points, against and things like that, because teams were playing differently. So as we go into next season, we're going to see a more aggressive offense. We're going to see more points. You're going to see other offenses being more aggressive against the defense, and we'll probably score more points, even with a similar defensive, kind of team around them. Even if Evero stayed and they kept the same players, you probably see more scoring against the team. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a bit different. I just cannot see. I just can't see another debacle like last year. And I think you're right. I've been talking about it. Russell Wilson's going to be a different person than we saw last year on the field. A different player under Sean Payton. And so I just got to grab this other one. I can't remember where it was. Alessandro, I'm sorry if I can't bring your comment up, but bringing back a familiar name, Royce Freeman as a running back coming in. That's a familiar name to Broncos country. He was drafted by John Elway when John Elway was the GM back in 2018. And I actually liked the pick. I thought he was going to be a pretty solid performer. He never really performed well, but get this. He's 26 years old. He doesn't have a lot of tread on his tires. Familiar face, maybe could rekindle some of what we thought he might be. I don't know. What do you think, Ron? And I'll give you my thoughts. What do you think about Royce Freeman coming in? And thank you, Alessandro. Sorry, I couldn't find your comment in this to bring it up, but I did see it.
Yeah, thank you, Alessandro. I'm actually not the biggest Royce Freeman fan. So I think for me, bringing him back, I guess wouldn't move the needle as much. But obviously, I know it's not my decision to bring him back. But if we're talking someone to kind of help solidify this running back group, I mean, we could do a lot worse. So Royce Freeman coming back for me, Thomas, wouldn't be the worst thing, although I'm not the biggest fan of it. But it would definitely help. And then to your point, we may have not even seen we haven't seen the best of Royce Freeman. We did see some good flashes when he was in Denver, but being in this new offense with Sean Payton, he can look like a whole different back. So definitely, you never know.
Yeah, absolutely. And he never got his footing under him, really. I don't know what actually happened. He's been in Houston. He's not a dynamic guy. But like I said earlier in the show, they need bodies in that running back room. If he comes cheap, you bring him in and just let him compete and see what happens. I don't think he's ever going to be impact running back. He's never going to be what people hoped he would be when he first was drafted. But you need players. You need players in that room right now. I think there's only one or two running backs that only one, I think, on the roster that has real experience.
Mm-hmm.
So the Broncos need to bring some folks in the running back room.
Yep.
So I'd be for it. Just as long as it's cheap and see what he can do. Yep. Let him compete.
Yep, definitely. And we got Keith coming in here. Thank you, Keith Broman, for the question. Much appreciated from Facebook. That's a great question. He asked, if we keep Sutton, what position does he play? Jeudy looked good as the X, so where does Sutton fit? So I'll let you go first, Thomas. And
I actually was talking about this before. In fact, I wrote an article about it when Jeudy took over that X position out of necessity, right? Sutton, they can manufacture plays for Sutton. Sutton's a big guy. They can get him out there in contested catches, like I said earlier. I think he has a role to play. He's not going to be a slot guy, but he's going to be able to be on the other side opposite of Jeudy and be that reliable guy that when your first read isn't there, to send the ball to Sutton and let him return to that 50-50 form. He is a beast out there. And I know it wasn't as good last year as he'd been. I can't explain it other than the entire offense was not itself. Many players were worse, right? You can get the ball out to him, be a reliable target. And, when you need somebody to catch that ball and you just chuck it up to him and let him go do his work, I think you could find a role for him quite well on the opposite side of Jeudy. And I think him and Patrick could swap out of that similar type of role. And I think would be beneficial. And at the same time, you have that versatility where you can put him back at the X, move Jeudy around a little bit if you need to create more opportunities for him. I think you have a lot of options with Sutton, and especially the fact that if he can return to that aggressive going after the ball and getting it type of mentality that he had in his first few years in the Mile High City, I think he's going to be a great compliment to Jeudy.
Yes, well said, Thomas. And again, thanks, Keith, for the question. The way I see it, yes, Jeudy is your X, Sutton your Y, Tim Patrick your Z. And with the Y and the Z, Tim Patrick may be the Y. I say Z now just because we don't know from that injury how he's going to recover, how he's going to bounce back. So I can maybe see him as the third receiver coming in. But you could be right, Thomas, of there could be some interchanging of these positions of Patrick being the Y and then Courtland being the X at times, right? So with Sean Payton, that versatility is going to come, Keith. And Thomas is also right where they're going to find a role for Sutton. I mean, how can you not? He's dynamic. He has the sure hands. He should be able to come down with the ball. And there will be a role in this offense for Courtland Sutton, especially with the focus being on Jeudy. So I can definitely see some interchanging with those positions and kind of where they fall. But again, that foundation, Jeudy X, Courtland Sutton Y, Tim Patrick Z is how I see it, at least starting the season.
Yeah, thank you for that, Keith. I appreciate the comment, appreciate the support. Phil McLaughlin's coming back in. We always appreciate you too.
Thanks,
coming in here, man. It's great, always great to have you with your comments. And you got a good one here. And Phil says, would it be worth looking at Jamal Williams for 2 years at $8 million? And I'm assuming it's 2 years for a total of $8 million, not $8 million per year. Because if it was $8 million per year, I'd probably say no. But at $4 million per, I mean, it's worth taking a shot. Jamal Williams, I mean, he really came on last year. He kind of surprised everybody. He had a really solid season. Doesn't have a lot of tread on his tires. I still worry about, giving running backs deals, as they age. He's going to be probably, I think he's going to be 28 when he enters the season, or at least during the season next year. So that worries me a little bit. But I don't like giving running backs contracts as they're approaching 30. I don't really like doing it. But without a lot of tread on his tires, he's a big back. He might be able to take that punishment, and he might be worth a look. Like I said, they got to bring somebody in. They have to bring in at least 2 free agents from the running back room. They have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Phil, again, thanks for all your comments. Your generosity, is always appreciated. And I like Jamal Williams as well. And if you're looking for someone that's somewhat similar to Javonte, that this would be your guy, that big bruiser, big guy that can come in and help you with the running game. But I do agree with the money. It's, again, $8 million over 2 years isn't bad. I would want to see what other options, maybe just for a lower contract price, are out there. But I think you'd be getting a lot, and he's still, like I said, late 20s. It's still a pretty good age with a lot of tread on the tires. So let's see what happens. But I'll be okay with Jamal coming in and helping out.
Yeah. And Robert America is coming in saying from Facebook, Jamal would be great. He's also great off the field. So that's great. I don't know, how great he is off the field, but the Broncos need to change that locker room. They're talking about it. So bring in those leaders. That's why I'm, people are talking about Odell Beckham Jr. And I think it would be wrong to bring him in if they're trying to change the culture, because not that he's a bad guy. And I think he's changed, but he does, he's polarizing. So I think it's a mistake to bring those in when you're trying to change the culture.
Yeah.
We got Nathan coming in with a super chat, man. We appreciate the support as always. Thank you so much. And he says, great shows, guys. Looking forward to checking out your Tableau dashboards, Thomas, when I get a chance. Mile High Huddle Tableau user group to come. LOL. Yeah. No, I think I'm the only Tableau user in the group, but I love Tableau. I've been using it for years, and I like to put stuff out on Tableau Public for, football stuff that people can use. So yeah, go check it out. Just look up my name and Tableau Public. You'll find it. You can, give me some feedback. Let me know. Do you like the draft probability calculator? I think it's useful. I actually like it better than the value chart that Jimmy Johnson created back in the day, where he just created numbers and sequentially went down. This is like real probabilities that you analyze. So yeah, check it out, man. I appreciate the support. And yeah, I'm going to be at the Tableau conference this year. So any Tableau users that are going to be at the conference in Vegas, look me up. I'll be there.
Nice. Thanks, Nathan. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, I think we're getting to that point in the show where, comments are starting to wind down. We're at the hour. So I think we'll wrap it up. But before we do that, I just want to say, make sure you go to Mile High Huddle. Look at all the other shows that are out there. There's some good ones, many different perspectives. We have our perspective. There's, other groups out there. You can check out. I've got a show on Wednesday with Luke Patterson. It's, Mile High Insiders comes on at the same time on Wednesday. It's fun, different perspective. Got the Legend of Mile High, which is a lot of history. And then there's other ones. And check out the merch store, everything. Yeah, we appreciate everybody coming in here and being here with us tonight. I know it's Saturday night, and it takes effort to not have Saturday night plans so you can see our show. So we really, really appreciate it.
Definitely. Yes. And like Dylan says here, make sure you guys hit that like button, share on platforms, and subscribe. So again, thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of Orange and Blue View, and free agencies right there. So we'll see what happens with the Broncos and how they handle free agency. It's going to be interesting coming up, all this news of, who's gone, who's coming in, who they've signed. So just, be on the lookout for all the news. We're here for it.
Yep. It's all new stuff coming in. We always like it. So thank you very much, and have a great evening.
Thank you, guys.